I was 24 years old when this all happened. It wasn't that long ago. I'm 26 now. During my time in university, I worked as a babysitter for a family during the week and occasionally as a weekend babysitter for a different, affluent family. I would spend the weekend at the house with the kids because they would frequently go away on the weekends and leave their two children behind. It was actually fantastic while it lasted because they had a whole guest bedroom set aside for me, and the family was quite pleasant. It took place in the spring. It was warm outside, and every flower was blooming. I arrived at the house on Saturday, and Saturday night was uneventful. I just spent some time playing with Olivia and Owen, the two children. Olivia was 4, and Owen was 6. They were both well-mannered and adorable. Olivia went to bed at 7:30, while Owen went at 8:30. I used to play with each of them and their toys during the day. The toys in the family were kept in 2 rooms, one for Olivia and one for Owen. Olivia cherished her playhouses and dolls. I played with her for a long time. I would watch Owen play his video games since he liked them so much. The house was stunning, and these kids truly had it all. There was a large pond in the center of the enormous property. In addition to a pool and pool house across the pond that served as a bar and recreation area with a pool table, darts, arcade games, a large TV, and numerous couches, it also had a separate 3-car garage. This family was so wealthy that they installed an intercom between the pool and the main houses. To use it, you had to press a button on the wall in either location for the intercom to ring and allow you to speak. There was also a huge window in the pool house with a view of the house and the pond. I could, therefore, spend the night doing anything I wanted after the kids went to bed. It was excellent. But I wasn't meant to be hosting friends. That regulation bound me. To kill time, I would merely FaceTime with my buddies and watch movies at the pool house. I'll tell you what, it was a very nice area to spend some free time. I returned across the property to the home, entered the code to let myself in, and headed to the kitchen because I was hungry. They had abundant food and snacks, which I was free to take. I returned across the property to the pool house after grabbing a frozen snack from the freezer and heating it. I like spending more time there since I can talk on the phone louder and watch TV at a higher volume without disturbing the kids. I was texting some of my buddies while eating and watching the movie Superstars on the couch. I had just started telling my buddies what an amazing gig this was when I had a heart attack from the intercom beeper. As I turned to hit the answer button, I heard Olivia's voice on the other end, expressing that she was afraid because she could always hear noises. She usually slept through the night, so I had to put her to bed. After setting my breakfast, I dashed back to the house across the yard. Using the code, I went through the door and in. Once more and proceeded to Olivia's room. After we got off the intercom, she must have immediately gone back to her bed because she was there, all afraid. To calm her down, I went to tickle and cuddle her. Upon her recovery, I exited her room, closed the door, and strolled back down the hallway to the kitchen to retrieve a glass of wine. I heard the tiniest crack in the wood floor from another room while searching for a wine opener. I stopped and turned to stare that way, waiting for a second sound. I didn't want to start worrying right away. I didn't want Olivia to start telling me that she heard something. I assumed it was just the sound of settling into a new place. Admittedly, I was starting to feel uneasy, but I had to return because I had left the TV and lights on in the pool house. After going outside and using the code to lock the entrance, I hurried to the pool house. I took a seat on the couch once more and finished my meal. I decided not to bring the wine after all. Even though I was largely being sidetracked by my phone, I was still playing Superstars. I jumped in my seat as that infernal intercom went off again. When I quickly answered it, there was stillness on the other end. I said into the microphone, "Olivia." All I could hear was breathing, which I was positive I had heard. I must have shouted Olivia's and Owen's names 3 times apiece. I was truly beginning to feel afraid at this point. I was starting to become nervous, so I contacted my buddy Sarah and told her to come here. I informed her that the young girl I was supervising had mentioned hearing noises and that after I heard one, two, someone had touched the intercom button without saying anything. It didn't seem like something any of the kids would do to me. While I remained on the phone with Sarah, she sounded inebriated and told me to quit being paranoid. Throughout the entire phone conversation with her, my gaze was fixed on the house through the window. The lights in the hallway came on. I informed Sarah of this, and the slightest chance that it might have been one of the children vanished as a gigantic person appeared in one of the hallway windows. I let out a cry and let go of the phone, all the while gazing at a fully grown man who appeared to be observing me and responding in kind. It dawned on me that the intercom had been running the entire time. I took up my phone, hung up on Sarah, and dialed 911 while sobbing and yelling into the intercom, "Leave us alone, I'm calling 911 right now." Basically, I was shouting into the intercom everything I said to the police. When I returned to the window, he was no longer at the house window. I was crying uncontrollably and pleading with the 911 operator to hurry up as she continued telling me to calm down and interrogating me endlessly. I continued shouting, "Please hurry," and yelling the address into the phone. She inquired if the kids were safe, and I yelled back, "No, they're still in the house with that man." That's when I heard Olivia scream over the intercom, and I broke down totally, sobbing on my knees while the 911 operator tried to comfort me, but I was unable to control myself. She said, "The police are almost there, you need to wait," when I said, "I don't know what to do." She questioned if I spotted any weapons on the man after I told her that he had the kids. I replied that I was unable to tell, but then I heard Olivia calling my name over the intercom. I walked over and yelled, "Yes, I am here. Take your brother with you and leave the house." She said there was a man in here while sobbing. "Yes, I understand. Please grab your brother and go outside right away." Running outdoors to meet the two children who were already at the door and crossing the backyard to the house was the bravest thing I had ever done. I took hold of them both and guided them back to the pool house, where we hid with the lights off, across the yard. They were both crying, and although I wanted to cry too, I had to be brave and hold it together for them. While I was still on the phone with 911, she finally informed me that the cops had arrived and would be meeting us at the pool house. Those were the most consoling words I had ever heard in my life. The police flashlights shined through the windows. I took the children to the door, and we were greeted by two police officers there. The children accompanied the female officer to one vehicle. I went to another car with another police officer. 3 police cars had already pulled up in front of the house, and more were still arriving. As I was responding to all of their inquiries, they discovered him. They produced a man who appeared to be roughly 6 feet tall. As he was let out in handcuffs and placed in the back of a car, he turned to face everyone. His expression as he gazed at me is still vivid in my mind. He had an incestuous appearance. His face was contorted. The instant the matter was called, Olivia and Owen's parents were informed. None of us were going to stay there that evening. I assumed she called in sick to work the following day after the parents made arrangements for the kids' aunt to come pick them up and remain with her. When they decided they no longer needed me, I returned home, but that evening I stayed up late. I believe I was still in shock. I was still buzzing from my adrenaline fix. After that, the parents probably didn't let their children alone for a long while. I am aware that they pursue charges to the hilt, and with their power, I hope the creep receives everything he deserves and more. I politely informed them that I was tormented by that night and could not stay there any longer. How traumatized those poor youngsters were, and perhaps still are, was beyond me.